Check this out, guys. Does this look like me? I just 3D printed my own head for an RC driver figure using just a selfie. This is my parents' dog, Bluey. In this video, I'm gonna walk you guys through how to turn any image or a text prompt into a 3D printed object you can print directly from your at-home printers. No design experience needed. Stay tuned. All right, so if you're like me, you may be super into 3D printing, but just don't have the time to learn the tedious 3D design programs. Kind of limits your creativity. I recently learned about Meshy, where you can upload a 2D image or use a text prompt and turn it into a 3D printable object. You can even sell those files. You can even sell those prints generated from Meshy. I've been 3D printing for about 5 years now. I've been relying heavily on pre-designed files that I download from the internet on MakerWorld, Printables, Thingiverse, and more. I'm particularly interested in 1/10 scale objects for the radio control hobby, scale accessories, scale driver figures, things like that. But I've been recently playing around with Meshy to generate some 1/10 scale objects. I'm able to create pretty much anything I want from just a 2D image or a text prompt. Meshy is a AI-powered 3D content generation platform that lets creators turn simple text prompts or 2D images into production-ready 3D models that you can print right at home. There are a couple caveats with using Meshy, particularly when printing at smaller scales. It's a relatively new platform, so it is not perfect. I will talk about some of the caveats later on in the video, so make sure you stick around to the end. Let's dive on in. Meshy is a fully online platform. Meshy is also integrated into popular platforms like MakerWorld, bringing seamless and precise multicolor printing to your 3D printing workflow. You can try it now at makerworld.com. I will put a link on the screen. We're going to be using their website. However, we're going to go to meshy.ai and create an account. Like most AI tools now, it is credit-based, so you'll purchase a certain amount of credits and use those for each of the actions you perform on their site. It does give me a little anxiety seeing those credits draw down, particularly when you're in brainstorming mode. Sometimes you want to make small changes in your designs, and that's going to use up your credits, so just be aware of that. There are 2 ways to generate a print. You can start with a 2D image like I did, like a selfie, like a picture of your dog, or you can use a text prompt. With the text prompt, you can also have a reference image. We're gonna try both of those. With the 2D image route, if you're using an image, I recommend using Meshy Agent. It's essentially a chat-based assistant built into Meshy that acts like a 3D artist and project assistant. You can chat through your designs before you get to the final printable object. Instead of just generating a single model from an image or a prompt, you can have a conversation with it. It helps you iterate on your designs before generating the final objects. It is also available in any language, so you can use your native language to generate your designs. I did have to refine my head object a couple times. The first time I generated my head, it had a really weird hair swirl like a cap on the top of my head. I had to get rid of that. I also wanted the base to be flat, so it prints flat on the print bed and sits flush on my pre-designed body. Really nice feature, it has a direct to printer export tool as well. It will literally open your object directly in your slicer of choice. It has a lot of popular slicer platforms here listed. In my case, I'm gonna be printing my objects on the Bambu Lab P1S and my A1 Mini, so I had it open in Bambu Studio. I did have to do a few modifications in the slicer before printing. First, I had to get it to the correct printing size. Meshy does not really scale your images. That's one caveat, so you're gonna have to scale that yourself. 1/10 scale is pretty diverse in its sizing. I use the existing driver head from Night Customs as a good reference. I also wanted the head to sit on a head post, so I added a negative part using an existing head post from my scale driver, sitting about 10mm inset. Now we're ready to send our print. I printed this at 0.12mm resolution with tree supports, printing an Overture white matte PLA. I have other videos that fully dive into 3D printing and my print settings. I will link out to those, so we're not gonna cover those here. I got my matte white PLA filament loaded in my multi-filament system, the AMS from Bambu Lab, and I'm printing on the P1S enclosed printer. I will link out to my printers, the P1S and the A1 Mini, in the description box below. I think this turned out so cool. And that is how you turn a 2D image into a 3D printed object using Meshy. Now let's talk about just using a text prompt to generate a 3D printed object. Say you don't have any image to work with. Very similar process. We're going to be using Meshy agent again, but this time we have to be a little bit more descriptive in what we want it to generate. We are going to be generating a scale palette. Meshy agent first asked me whether I wanted it to be a European or a US palette or to just pick one. I picked the US one, and it gave me the option to generate a palette with clean lumber, a weathered rustic look, or stamped and branded with some type of logo. I just went with the clean lumber look for simplicity, and I actually didn't have to do any iterations with this one. I thought the first image was spot on, so I had it generate our 3D object. Like before, I had it export directly into Bamboo Lab Studio, added some tree supports, printed this in a tan PLA, and we were good to go. Another object I had to generate using the text prompt only was this automotive stool. This one was a little bit more challenging. It had some more finer details like these caster wheels and this threaded base here. So I used a bunch of credits to refine the design several times. Some images will generate seamlessly, others will take multiple iterations depending on the complexity. I ended up removing the wheels and printing the base just a clean cylinder. The seat snaps on the top here pretty easily. Even without the wheels, I think this still turned out pretty cool. Another cool feature is it is compatible with multicolor printing. Like I did with the scale paddleboard I had it generate. You can pre-assign different colors to your prints for those of you who have automatic material systems. I have the Bamboo Lab AMS system, which has to switch filaments and purge out an old color for every color change within a layer. This can lead to a lot of waste, particularly on this SUP. It would definitely have a lot of layer changes. So another great feature, you can ask it to split your model into different parts and print those individually. At the moment, this is all automated, so you can't select which parts to split off. Fortunately, for this design, it did a pretty good job with segmentation. The fin, deck pad, and leash attachment points, and the board itself all separated out, allowing me to print them in separate colors. I just assembled it myself with some glue. Definitely a fun feature to play around with, and I look forward to seeing this get even better in the future. A few things to note before we wrap up. Can you sell the prints generated using Meshy? If you have a paid plan, you own your prints, you can sell the files, you can sell your prints online. If you have a free plan, you can still sell your models and the physical prints, but they're licensed under CC BY 4.0, which requires you to provide attribution to Meshy. Meshy is a pretty powerful tool. However, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are some caveats and limitations. There are some limitations on texture for certain models. I had to generate a propane tank 1/10 scale version. However, the rounded exterior was super low poly. I could not get the cylinder to be super smooth. This is where we run into limits of AI generated models at the moment. It is just gonna struggle with some objects. Another one is that it is a credit-based system. Each action requires credits. If you want to make minor tweaks to your model, for example, the lips, hair, the neck, any action is going to run down your credits. They run down really fast if you request multiple revisions and edits to your designs. One limitation I found, particularly for printing at smaller scales, some of the designs look really great in their 3D digital form, but when printed at smaller scales, more intricate designs don't always translate. For example, the threaded body on this seat and the caster wheels had to be removed before I could actually get this to print without breaking. And lastly, it is important to remember this is another AI tool. It requires lots of processing power, server farms, lots of energy. Use it wisely. It is worth being aware of the impacts AI has on things like jobs, human creativity, ethics, the environment, and more. Be informed and use these tools wisely. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. A new tool for expanding your creativity in 3D printing without the tedious, time-consuming job of learning 3D design programs. Pretty cool to play around with Meshy. Thank you to Meshy for sponsoring this video. Huge thank you as well to my dedicated community of patrons on Patreon for their continued support. Until next time, I'll see you later.